I'm scared to touch my mouse because Harper's going to bite me again.
He's in a mood. Hey, Harper. Welcome to True Weird Wednesday, everybody. Let's let folks fall into the queue. We were just talking amongst ourselves. It was snowing. I'm out in the southern Utah desert, and it was snowing today, which happens here, but it doesn't. It doesn't really stick. Big, fat, fluffy flakes coming down, but the ground isn't cold enough for it to stick. But seeing, like, we can see from my mom's driveway in the distance, you can see what is Zion National Park, and on the other side in the distance is Bryce Canyon, and then further north where we can't see, toward Salt Lake. Those mountains were completely bare, and now we have snow on them. So yay! Hi, there's my fellow Beehive State girl. Hey, Cheryl, how you doing? How you doing?
Is Utah the Beehive State?
Utah's the Beehive State, not because people are confused because they think, well, are there a lot of bees in Utah? Is Utah a big honey producing state? No, the people of Utah are as busy and diligent and organized.
Oh, I see.
Hi, Jane Stevens and Matt Hargusty over on YouTube.
Out of the box of darkness. Hey, everyone from Michigan. Jason's out in Colorado. Hi, Kim and Julie. Miles in Iowa's on YouTube too. Hi, Susan. Becky. There's my boyfriend, Ed Erdley. And Amy Scoggins. Hey, hey. So welcome, everybody. We are giving away, I think you said 4, Heather? Did you say 4? We have 4 awesome True Weird Stuff hats that we're giving away. So Heather's going to post something in the comment stream.
Yep, I just posted the link to the contest to enter. It's only open for tonight during this live hour, so make sure you go and register.
We used to, every comment counted as an entry, but y'all were constantly accusing Heather of spamming you and not claiming your prizes. So we don't want people to not get their prizes because they think it's a scam. So hit the link that Heather posted, and you can win one of 4 True Weird Stuff hats.
Hi, Riviera Bear.
Hey, Jimmy. Hey, Jamie. And Melissa's in North Myrtle Beach. Hi, Margaret and Roxanne. Welcome to all of our True Weirdos. So today I printed out, I have it in my hot little hands. I don't usually print anything out, but one of my mom's church friends asked if she could be on True Weird Stuff and could I let her be a bad girl. So I've written an episode for her and for my mom. They will play a pair of sisters from Virginia who end up running the world's most opulent whorehouse in Chicago. And it is just the best. They run that place like only a couple of Southern debutantes whose family lost all their money in the Civil War know how. And it is such a fun story. And so my mom and her friend Carolyn are going to play a pair of madams. And that'll be coming out, I don't know, soon-ish. This week's episode is about the conspiracy theory that monstrous, disgraced pedophile and financier Jeffrey Epstein didn't die because he can't die because he's an immortal undead vampire.
He's a vampire, yes. I've Miles Meyer. Doc, are you there? No, he's not here. But that's funny.
No.
We are going to have a shirt. Is that correct? That says, Doc, are you there?
Oh, one of our listeners designed the graphics for it. It's just up to Tony to make it happen.
There we go.
Now when I say, Doc, are you there? I start laughing because it's become such a thing. So Jason said, I won something a few years back. When I tried to redeem it, it wouldn't work no matter how many times I tried. So I started to question it from then on. So, we used to do, like, we gave away gift cards, for example, we did gift codes because we thought that would be easier to just email you your gift code. But those things are so wonky that Tony's gone back to
actually having cards,
physical gift cards and an envelope going through the mail. Because, look, everything, what can I tell you? Everything is just broken and jacked up and confused. And stuff doesn't work and then you can't fix it. I saw a really interesting post on Threads. This person had canceled a flight and they had a travel credit, and the travel credit expires on February 27th. So they went on the airline's website and they could not book a flight with the travel credit because it's going to expire on the 27th. But I'll remind you that today is the 18th. So technically we have some days, right, before this
That's
thing
right.
expires, like 9 of them. So they call the uh, customer service number, and the person tells them that's just how it is. There's nothing I can do. So this person goes, but I have a travel credit that hasn't expired yet, and I would like to, book this flight. The person was like, I don't know. So they ended up going on Reddit and following some Redditor's hack to be able to use their travel credit. So you say to yourself, oh, somebody at the airline made a mistake. Is it a mistake, though? Is it a mistake? Because if I can aggravate you enough so that you don't use your travel credit, guess what I just got to keep? Your
Mhm.
$722. Not to sound like paranoid or whatever, but there you go. Heather, we have a question. Can we buy the True Weird Stuff hoodie, or are they only a giveaway item? We don't have those in the store, do we?
No.
No, they're only a giveaway item as of right now. Tony is working on it. I think they're I think it's like a supply kind of issue right now. He's trying to figure out how to get them accessible.
Well,
This is the gray version of it here with the True Weird Stuff logo on it.
the thing is, like hoodies are the reason we did them as just a giveaway item is because they're expensive, and we thought that's a lot to pay for, but maybe if you could win it. But I suppose we could put one in the store. I mean, that like our cost on these hoodies is like $40. And
Hmm.
that's before we ship that. That's before we put the logos on them. And because Max will tell you they're really good quality,
They are.
aren't
They're
they?
nice.
So before we even, and that's an embroidered, not a screened
Yeah,
logo.
it's
Yeah.
nice and
So
real.
we pay for these heavy duty hoodies, and then we pay to have the logo embroidered on. And I was just afraid it would be expensive. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm always worried about what things cost for people. I know I drive Tony crazy, don't I, Heather? With that's expensive. What are you thinking? But we can look into it. Yeah. We can look into it. Matt loved the latest episode about square dancing. Henry Ford was such a crazy bigot. He helped finance the Nazi party through the tourist German cars.
It, it's a crazy story, but it was a fun episode.
It was a. I told Max when I was. We're so self-critical and we hate ourselves so much, but I paused it like 20 minutes in and said, well, this is just delightful. As you know, a lot of True Word Stuff episodes are either existentially horrifying, like, are we even here, or is this just a hallucination? Or heads are getting smashed in with pickaxes. So this was that rare thing where you didn't have to experience existential dread or heads getting crushed, and you could just swing your partner. It was kind of
And
fun.
my car broke down, and so it was my production of it was delayed a little bit. So I apologize that it was delayed, but there was nothing I could do. My car, I couldn't turn it off.
I mean, Max reached out and he said, I'm having a problem today. And the next thing that came through was a picture of his car going up on a like truck. um, okay, yeah, I'm looking. Okay, how do we enter to win for the hoodie, Lizette? We go to trueweirdstuff.com.
Well, we don't have hoodies this week. We have
No,
caps.
no, no. How do we, because we're giving away hoodies through the True Weird Stuff website. Heather, are we still
Oh,
doing that?
yes, yes. So that you go to truewordstuff.com and subscribe to the newsletter, and Tony selects someone at random.
Yeah.
And we're giving away. I mean, we're not giving away one. We have an entire shipment, like an entire caseload of them that we're giving away. So yeah, if you go over there, Lizette, you can enter to win. I'm gonna see, because I hate like cheap crap. I hate like awful fabric. I'm gonna see if we can put one in the shop that doesn't feel insane. Because I y'all won't, because y'all are reasonable people. But Heather and Max know what I'm about to say. We will put a True Weird Stuff hoodie in the store. We'll get the very best deal on it we can. And somebody will send us a blistering negative email about who do we think we are selling an expensive hoodie. Like, I would ask Heather to embroider them herself, but with what time?
Julie asked if you joined the newsletter a long time ago. Are you still entered? I believe that yes, you are. Right?
Yes.
Yes.
If you signed up for, we don't call it a database because that implies that we're going to sell it or do something with it, and we're not. But
No.
eventually, if we can, we'd like to get to the point we're a little overwhelmed, but we'd like to get to the point where we can do like a fun True Weird newsletter or something that where we can put additional content out. And so we thought, well, what's the interest level in that? There's no way to know unless you ask. And we didn't want to just ask you to go to the trouble of signing up for this without the possibility of, winning something fun.
Right.
So yes, if you signed up, your name is still in there, and we have a thing that cycles them and randomizes them. So y'all loved square dancing in school too. I thought it was so much fun. I learned something this week, and that is that Max has only ever square danced as an adult.
and not with the best attitude, perhaps, but once I committed to it, I had a lot of fun.
I I think oh, Stacy, you like my hair? I was telling Heather and Max that when I'm out here, every day I have a completely different head. Curly, straight, wavy, fluffy, flat. Like I never know what's going to happen between my mom's water softener system and the climate. But thank you very much. So
And for those of you that have said hi, I just want to say hi back. Thank you for your
Max
nice
went
words.
square dancing as a grown up, kind of like he was invited and he just felt like he couldn't say no. Would you like to describe your evening?
Well, this is long ago, and I had gone. I was dating someone who said, "Oh, we're going to go to this thing, and we're going to go square dance." And I said, "We're going to do what?" And she said, "We're going to go square dance." And I went, "Oh, well, what? How does that work?" She says, "Oh, it's so easy. They just tell you what to do." And I was not a grump, but at the same time, internally, I was like, don't want to do this. My body does not do well with dancing of any kind. When I dance, people start a GoFundMe to try to cure what's wrong with me.
But
So
square dancing?
I went and was doing it, and I had a very good time. And Sheri asked me on the episode, when we had the discussion afterwards, why that was. And I think it's just because sometimes you just have to let go of whatever you have that's I can't do that because I'll look uncool or whatever is going through your head, and allow yourself just to have a good time, and I think that's what that's all about. It's really not about just the square dancing.
So, Max, let me say, Lizette, her mom had emergency open heart surgery 2 weeks ago, and she hasn't been able to sleep. She's taking care of her mom and being her advocate, and she's been binging the episodes. And she said that as a lifelong clogger, she has big feelings about finding out the history of square dance. But here's the thing. I have to hang on. This is my husband. He's on the road. Hey, love, I'm on happy hour. Can I call you right back? Okay. In Fort Smith.
It's happening right in front of you, folks. It's happening as we're going.
Okay. Do you want me to find you something in Briscoe and then send it to you?
Binge episodes I missed.
Okay. I will. Hang on.
Oh, I know. Julie was saying she lost her dog. I know.
You're on the others. You're on I-40 in Briscoe. No.
We should get like a Santa cam, but for Kevin, and just
Okay. All right. It's gonna take me a minute to do this because there's not a lot on that part of Arkansas, so you have to give me a minute, okay? I'll call you back. All right. Love you. Bye.
Kelly said, "I have a 13-year-old grumpy ass son. We were listening to the Diner podcast, nibbling your ears. Yes, yes. That story did actually happen, and what's the drunk woman nibbling on my ear in the diner? What was really interesting about that was listeners were in another part of the diner. I had no idea that I worked for the show, and so when I told the story on the air, it turned out they emailed me and said we were there, we saw it, we witnessed it. It really did happen like that. So
Let me tell y'all what's going on. That was my husband. He and the dog are driving to Utah. They left this morning. Max is going over to be Uncle Max to my cats.
mm,
My husband is in a colossal traffic jam somewhere in Arkansas on I-40 in between Little Rock and Fort Smith. He would like me to find him a hotel. He wants me to look at his location on my phone to do so. Now the problem is that my iPhone won't update his location beyond 45 minutes ago. And so when I tell him, "Hey Siri, screenshot," when I tell him that, his head will begin to explode. Okay, so
mm,
hang on. And he's out of his mind with exhaustion, and he's sitting in traffic. Um, and of course, we're doing happy hour. And you know how sometimes I say, like, I'm so exhausted and overwhelmed. This is what I'm talking about. Because I'm trying to, oh, Harper, look at you. Look at you. I might need to consider some Ritalin. But I'm trying to do multiple things at once. And this is kind of a crisis because he's in the middle of the highway somewhere with a giant dog. He's been on the road for 11 hours and he's cranky and tired and probably has to pee. And, you know, like I'm pretty, it's very complimentary, y'all. He thinks I'm like this wizard with my phone. But if I don't know where, you understand, Max, if I don't know where you are, how much of a
yeah,
wizard can I be? And
no,
Harper, that face of silent judgment, I know what you're thinking. I'm thinking it too.
I think she's contemplating biting me again. It's just she's got the face of I'm about to bite you.
Julie Scoggins says I can help. I'm from that area, so she's willing to
Julie,
help as well.
Julie, what is east of Fort Smith, west of, because Art, I can tell you guys on my journeys back and forth across America, if you're tired in Arkansas, you better make a plan. You best have you a plan because there are long stretches of Arkansas I-40, before you're going to come upon a hotel room. So anyway, back to talking about, yeah, Lizette, right? And I've got dinner in the oven for my mom. So back to talking about square dancing. So the reason that I think that square dancing is so delightful is it doesn't require that you're a good dancer. It
No,
just requires that you're a good sport,
that's exactly right.
you know? And isn't it wonderful to have an activity that everyone, if you're just willing to get up and be a good sport and bow to your partner, everyone can be just kind of laughing and having fun. It's the nature of square dancing that everybody looks a little bit sweaty and silly and out of breath, right?
Right.
Even I've looked at, I can't even, it's like the amount of my life I've given to square dance films, videos, and competitions. But even at a big square dance convention where people come from all over the United States in costumes and they have like teams, and even when you're seeing really first rate square dancing, there's this little voice in your head that goes, I could probably do that.
Well, what was amazing about this story is I had no idea where it came from or that its roots were that ancient and how it ended up being in schools. It's a fascinating story. If you haven't listened to the episode, listen to it. It really is. It's a
It was
fascinating story.
fun. It was fun. And I will tell you that it'll give you some warm fuzzies about being an American. And that's kind of a neat sensation these days, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because what you'll hear in this episode. Oh, look, that was Dennis's highest grade he ever got in phys ed, square dancing. Look at you, Dennis. Um, so square dancing is like really American, but it's like the perfect American thing because it's the melting pot. It's these old folk dances and people coming in. The whole Atlantic slave trade, that whole nightmare, but all that music and culture that came in with that was added to the old European dances and the folk dances from all around the world. And then indigenous dances and this whole idea of call and response music. It's so fun, y'all.
It,
It's so fun. And I'm terrible. I mean, I couldn't. The only time Miss Tiffany, my tap teacher, could get me to tap dance is if she stood right next to me like a square dance caller, and hollered out what she needed me to do.
Judy says, I don't recall doing any kind of dancing in PE. No, I didn't either. But of course, for my first 2 years of high school, we're in a in a in a high school Catholic seminary, so I was away from home, and that wasn't going to happen there. And then we went to the. I don't remember when I went to regular Catholic high school that we did it there. So
Well, it was pretty broadly dispersed. Like it's not unique to any one part of the country. We were a little surprised to find it everywhere. But in public schools, for sure, not necessarily the public school that you went to, because the first patron saint of square dancing in America was a teacher in New York City. The second patron saint was a teacher in Colorado Springs.
mhm.
And the third patron saint was Henry Ford. Now, Henry Ford's, the two teachers had pretty pure motives. They just thought dancing was a really fun way to get kids moving their bodies. They loved it. And the second teacher in Colorado saw that, he understood that teaching kids square dancing was a way of preserving Western music and Western community dances, right?
Mhm.
Their motives were pure. They just thought it would be an awesome thing for kids. Henry Ford was so scared that white people were getting replaced. It's kind of trippy to hear these same things back in the headlines again today. But it was square dancing is one of those things that the motives were pretty pure to get kids to do it.
And even if it was, even you know what I love. Sometimes people do stuff for the wrong reasons, and it's still a good result. And I think that's what happened with this. When it goes about Henry Ford is what I mean.
Um, okay, I have to ask Julie a question, can I?
Yeah.
Julie, he's 45 minutes east of Russellville. Is that where I should find him a place to stay? We'll ask him if he can make it another 45 minutes in the car. Um, Two left feet, Amanda. I know, right? It's maddening because my youngest is an amazing dancer. And she didn't get it from me. But that's what I loved about square dancing, because grab your partner by the hand. Okay, I gotcha. This is why I love the Cupid Shuffle. Because what is the Cupid Shuffle? But a really cool, hip square dance that
Yeah.
white people can pull off at weddings.
I mean, I'm able to do that sort of thing if I can follow what other people are doing, and you kind of go along with it. I can do some of those syncopated dances like that. But I mean, I've done shows where I had to do some sort of dance moves, and it's like, oh my god, it was painful. It was painful because it's two left feet, it really is.
I'm terrible, which you would think I wouldn't be because I was a cheerleader, but that's a different palm dance as a whole. It's very like regimented. It doesn't require a lot of like sexy fluidity. It's very regimented. And so, I could learn that. It didn't require that I was interpreting or feeling the music. Um, but the great, so the really nice thing about the square dance program in schools, as kooky as it is, um, it really did preserve an art form, because even the Puritans, those bastards, they they didn't call it square dancing. It had another name back then. They called it long ways dancing or country dancing, but even they danced. And if we were in danger of having that whole like little folk art form just kind of peter out and
Mm.
be lost until these three square dancing fairy godfathers entered the scene. And it would be a shame. It would be a shame to lose it because it's a part of our history that we can trace centuries back. And because of that, the melting pot aspect of it, it reminds us that that's like our unique thing in the world is people come here from everywhere and they bring all of their traditions and their music and their art with them. And we all kind of pull it apart and make something new that's ours together.
Yeah.
Once upon a time, that's what it meant to be an American. And I didn't realize until I started doing this podcast, like how truly like historically patriotic I am. You know, flawed, imperfect. We do so many things wrong and we point those out week after week here. But you know, we were in the fight to be better.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody's asking, where's Lamar? It's True Weird Wednesday. Lamar gets being with us is weird enough for him. So he's not a part of True Weird Wednesday.
I
Although I
mean,
have a
he
part
would be if we asked him, but he
if we
gets
asked him, but he reaches a point where he's had enough of us and our weirdness. That's for sure.
I have a fun part in the episode of the two sisters that ran the brothel in Chicago. I have a really fun part for Lamar that y'all are going to absolutely eat up. Let me just put it this way. This was a very expensive place. This was a place for movie stars and royalty and gangsters and politicians, industrialists, very, very wealthy men. Just to walk through the door, you had to be, it was so expensive, okay? Not every man that went there wanted what you would think he would want. Some of these men, they had all the money in the world and they had very particular fantasies that are not in any way like dirty or obscene. They're just bizarre. And my favorite of all of these men is Lamar's going to play. And all I'll tell you so that you'll hear it when the episode comes out is this dude has a jingle bell fetish, like as in Heather. Heather's laughing because she sees these guys on the dating apps, a literal jingle bell fetish. Now, let's talk about Andrew Jackson and Jeffrey Epstein. Somebody had that question. Oh, Julie. Okay, let me look at Julie's hotel suggestions. Let me go back. Y'all talk, Max. You handle it, please.
Yeah, that's okay.
Seeing Andrew Jackson vampire as a sentence,
so I've seen this. If you see the $20 bill, there's a picture of Andrew Jackson. Looks an awful lot like Jeffrey Epstein. So that was my first introduction to this. And then Sheri said, that's what we're going to do an episode about. So it is going to be a very kooky episode. I like it though. And we were going to have all kinds of characters in it. And I can't wait to hear it after I assemble it. Sometime when I get finished with everything else that I have to do on Friday.
I sort of, it was a struggle to write a little bit because I hate this man and everything associated and connected with him and every single horse he came in on. And so I hated having to keep typing his name. But the Andrew Jackson, Jeffrey Epstein conspiracy theory is super duper interesting because it's a baby theory. It's just coming out of the pot. And you can see the way a conspiracy theory gets built from the ground up with this one. And he and Andrew Jackson do strongly resemble each other. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to even cherry pick. And you'll hear it in the episode when it comes out on Friday night. Some of the things that Andrew Jackson did in the White House sound really, really uncomfortably familiar to things that are happening right now. And so the case for this particular conspiracy theory is, if you were immortal, you would change your identity. You'd have to change your name and where you live and your clothes. And you'd have to do all sorts of things to stay out in front of the idea that you don't age or you don't die, right? But you would be the same creature internally, right? I mean, Max, I could call you Roger or Dan and you're still Max. Like, you're still you.
Right.
So the governing principle there is new name, new occupation, new everything, same. And Andrew Jackson was an absolutely monstrous, unrepentant, racist, bigot. The only really good thing I can say about him is how he was just utterly devoted to his wife. And that's it, right? So just because the two men resemble each other, that's how this conspiracy theory got born. But then you look at like who Andrew Jackson was and who Jeffrey Epstein was, and you pull all those threads and you can see how people believe this stuff. You re-
Yeah, you can.
you
Absolutely.
really can.
And so I'm very much looking forward to that. Neil Lacroix is there. Hello, Neil. He says that we've made him a true weirdo. Yay!
Yay.
And I'll say this now. I usually try to say this, but it helps us if you rate the episodes. Like if you listen on Apple Podcasts, if you rate the episodes and leave us a review, it helps us for getting discovered. And I know some of you listen on Spotify, and you can put comments on there, or you listen through the Bob and Sherry app too. So anyhow, if you
Um,
rate it, it does help us. So
Sherry, Sandra Denise was asking for a true weird stuff on remote viewing.
oh, girl, the
oh
only the only reason you don't already have it is because I'm obsessed with it and it's such a huge subject. I saw somebody on social media today saying that they remote viewed the Zorro Ranch in New Mexico and that there is what appears to be there's a network of tunnels, and none of this is new or, like woo woo. This is just,
yeah,
there's all sorts of stuff underground, including what appears to be an industrial sized incinerating crematorium situation. And who's surprised? But anyway, this remote viewer said that deep, deep, deep down below Zorro Ranch in these tunnels, there's something that's kind of greenish and glowing. And they thought it might be uranium, which tracks because a lot of the uranium, like if you travel, I don't know if you know this, Max, and Heather, but if you travel in certain parts of the Southwest, like through Navajo country in Arizona, there's all these signs about uranium. Don't dig, don't go, call this number. And of course, I'm just going to say this out loud. Isn't it interesting that all these uranium hazards are on the res? Just thought I'd throw that out there. It's probably me. It's probably just a coincidence. Any Hoosers. So I'm obsessed with remote viewing. And if you don't know what it is, here's the basic gist. Remote viewing is kind of like a psi ability. That's what we're calling it now. Although if you wanted to get into quantum physics and like spooky action at a distance and all this other stuff, you could probably make a pretty good physics case for remote viewing. But let's go with it's some sort of psi psychic phenomenon. A person with these talents, the military does this a lot. The CIA has been doing remote viewing for decades. Some of the remote viewers who work with the government and the military and the CIA are famous, okay? And you'll see them sometimes on like the History Channel or the Science Channel or whatever. Any Hoosers. So these remote viewers are brought into a room, and the room is devoid of stimuli. It's a classic, just you at a table, and they're given an envelope, and inside the envelope, which they do not open, are coordinates, latitude, longitude, that sort of thing. And the remote viewer then sits with that and reports what they see. So one of the most famous remote viewers, his name is Joe McMoneagle. He's done a ton. My fellow spooky weirdos know the name. Like he's done a ton of incredible remote viewing for the government. These remote viewers have. There was a famous case where they watched the Soviets building a nuclear submarine up in the Arctic area, like up on the North Sea, and a handful of other like. There's some remote viewing that's been done around the pyramids and the Sphinx, but a lot of it has been for military purposes. It's a huge subject. I haven't been able to figure out how to break a bite-sized chunk off. Max, what do you think?
it's a big story, yeah, and it's been going on for a long time. And um, when I first heard about it, I heard it. I think I heard about it from Art Bell, who used to do the all night radio show. He used to do all that stuff, and that was the first time that I heard about it. And then I actually talked to my parents, would listen to him early in the morning, and they asked, "What do you think about this?" And I went, "Oh, I don't know, if the CIA is involved." So, but I don't know whether they're still doing it now. But I know that at one time it was a thing. It really was.
They are still doing it. It's a legitimate. I can't explain to you how it works, but it's a legitimate thing. And for most of our lives, it was thought to be a psychic ability. Some people have this ESP, to use an old term. But I think more now that we're beginning to explore what is consciousness? Is it inside your head? Is it outside, non-local, right? Is it outside? And if consciousness is a field, a quantum field that we're all like walking antennas and we're receiving this information and constructing the reality that we're experiencing through this reception of energy. That's the theory, right?
Mhm.
In that theory, remote viewing makes perfect sense, that some people would have the ability to not just receive, but to receive at a distance, in the same way that some antennas can pick up, further away than others. So yeah, I would love to. I just haven't figured out yet. Let me get this room booked for this man loses his ever loving mind, what's left of it. Um,
Um, oh, thanks. Star Trek Fan for Life is listening with the YouTube Music app. Okay, are you listening to the podcast with that? You're not. Are you listening? Going through because we are doing this on YouTube now too, and I know some of you may be doing it on YouTube.
The YouTube Music app, if you are listening to podcasts through there, it is a little funny. Hasn't been quite perfected.
Oh, okay. Um, I Sereno says I had a 4 foot something teacher, Miss Dentino, who taught us dance. She was in her 60s, but boy, she could dance. Learned the hustle and other dances too.
some
Uh,
people just have it.
some people have that, yeah.
Some people just have it. Um, we don't, Max and I don't happen to have it, but we're awfully delighted when somebody tells us exactly what to do in what order, and then it's kind of
I
fun.
spent most of my life that way, Sherry. I'm just waiting for somebody to tell me what to do.
You know
Um,
what's interesting is how much dancing in like a communal space used to be a large part of American culture, and it's kind of disappeared.
We're losing what we call third spaces, right? And you don't want to, like, as terrible as I am, like, I would like to dance,
Mhm.
but I don't want to go to a
but,
club.
but
For women, Heather, I mean, girl, you want to be in the club?
I don't want to be in the club because of men, and then I also don't want to be filmed just trying to live my life for somebody to laugh on the internet about it.
Yeah, and I don't want to have to worry about covering my drink. Like, this is why we all just stay home. Um,
Sherry, I mean, you did take tap dance classes, and you actually were at a recital. In fact, I went to the recital, and then there was somebody we were connected with had a family emergency, and I never got to see you dance.
well, the show that you missed, so something really cool happened. And even though I'm a terrible tap dancer and the world hasn't lost anything, my youngest that was her dance studio where I took those classes, and she was one of Miss Tiff's assistant teachers. And one of the dancers had a conflict and had to drop out. So Karen Mia put on the costume, and I got to dance on stage at a big auditorium, packed, next to my youngest child, tap dancing to Earth, Wind, and Fire. Core memory, awesome. All right,
Yeah.
I think I've got Kevin all booked. So let me read what Suzanne said. The day we had to pick between dance and archery, we had a storm day, just for those of us that lived on the island and went to high school on the mainland. We all thought we'd be in the dance class since the others had picked. Nope, most of us got put into archery. Keep in mind that there were only 11 of us from the island. What a childhood! What a childhood!
That
Can
is
you
a great
imagine?
childhood. Yeah.
Archery would have been an incredible thing to do in PE. I would have been very invested in archery.
I'm surprised we didn't have that out west, but we didn't. Um, yeah, so back to the remote viewing in the CIA. We have a pair of CIA episodes. They're connected, but like just a bridge between them. It's not a two-part episode. So the like, how else do you explain, if you don't do the whole quantum field thing? How else do you explain how these people can have a sealed envelope with coordinates in it and see what they see?
Well, you know, I have a tendency to believe more in this than I did the Vatican time machine. I I mean, there were certain things about that when we were talking about that we like, okay. So they were like, did you see the crucifixion of Christ? Well, there were a lot of crucifixions back then, was what kind of what they said. And I was like, I don't know how you track that. But with this is a little bit more specific where you're saying, here are the coordinates, this is what happens. And I believe that somebody could see something. Somebody put in there, they need to get her on the Savannah Guthrie's mother on the case. Well, the problem is they don't know where she is. And in fact, I was watching the news before we started this tonight, and they said that they fear she may be in Mexico. This is one of the craziest stories of the last 10 years. I mean, I just, it's a crazy story.
I'm trying to say as little as possible about this one for fear of sounding like a lunatic. I just hope that she's still alive, even though the odds seem enormously against it.
It doesn't seem good.
I
No.
hope she's still alive, and that wherever she is, she's getting reasonably compassionate care.
Please, let's hope. Yeah, please, let's hope.
There's just something wrong with it. Oh, Susan Kirk, what is a third space? Home. There's home and there's work. And then there's this third space that is neither of those things, that's like social and community. And there used to be a lot of third spaces. Malls when you were a kid, teenager hanging out at malls, third space, bowling alleys, libraries, coffee shops, parks, community centers. It's just, when I say we're losing our third spaces, we're losing places to go where you don't have to spend money to be there. And this is really, really true for kids. Like if I see one more damn up in arms local news story about roving bands of teenagers, pick a lane, Chad. Do you want them off their phones and their screens and outside? Do you?
Oh, we
Oh,
lost Sherry. Oh, I'm
oh my goodness.
well, and Sherry's right about that third space because I can remember when I was a kid. Did you go to the mall? I went to the mall,
Yeah,
and
we
you didn't have to spend anything except at Sbarro, where you would buy some crummy Italianish type food, but I think that we have lost a lot of those. I think
well,
she's right about that.
yeah, and when I was younger, I do remember arcades being a part of malls.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
you could go in and do stuff in there, that's all sort of disappeared. They also don't have any places for you to, like, just sit and hang out in the mall that's not the food court
yeah,
anymore.
that's true. There used to be places.
Mhm.
You really, if you watch Stranger Things, you really get a sense for what life was like back then. If you get a chance to watch that,
And, roller skating, like, that was also
that
a
was another one. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, I'm looking here. Cheryl says, "Oh, she's talking about Kevin." Julie says, "Girl, I had an edible once that made me think I could see 5 planes of consciousness at once. It makes it more believable, but never again." Good Lord. I'm really happy that I've never done edibles and I'm never going to do edibles. So we answered the question about the third space. Max, what does this say? All of a sudden, these things are popping really fast.
Right.
Let me
Hang
see.
on, guys, I'm trying to get Sherry back with.
Yes, I remember arcades. Yeah. Jeff says I did archery in PE. We didn't have that. I don't remember what we did in PE. I remember we played basketball, and I remember we had the presidential something or other where you had to run at a certain distance and do so many pull-ups and all that stuff. But I don't, you block out the bad memories. Julie. Listen, most of the stuff I subscribed. Okay. Yeah, Sherry will come back. I promise you that
Yeah,
she
she's trying to get back in.
my I think that some of my favorite episodes, the Doomsday Clock was one of my favorite episodes we did with True Grit stuff that was last year. That was probably one of the ones that I enjoyed the most. Hey, Sherry.
That's one of my favorites of all time.
Yeah, it was. And you know what's funny? That's another one. I put it together and I was like, okay, fine, it's done. And then Sherry was like, wow, this is really good. And I was like, it is?
Oh,
I
I
wasn't.
called him, and Max, this is the best work you've ever done, all in one place. It's all of your skills all in one place. And he was like, really? I hate myself. I'm like, go back and listen.
Well, I know that this last one, especially the one about the square dancing, that because my car broke down and I did it in pieces and everything was is sometimes you don't get a chance to get uninterrupted time, and because of that I was like, this is really terrible. And of course I always check to make sure if I haven't made any mistakes, and sometimes I still do, but I listened back to it and I really didn't listen to it. I listened to it fast, so I wanted to make sure there were no screw ups in it. And then I was kind of like, and then Sherry said, "No, this was delightful." And after she said that, I went, "Okay, I can go back and listen to it now." Because in total, I know what little segments of it sound like, because I make this transition and this have to go here, and did this music work with this, and I try all that stuff, but I don't know what it sounds like in total usually until after it's put together.
You know,
Um,
some of these, we our threshold for bloodthirsty is so high. Like
Mm.
it takes a lot for us to go, yikes. And I know that for some people, because I'll hear from people that are like, I love True Weird stuff, but I have nightmares. So it was fun to put an episode out that was just so fun and delightful. What were you going to say, Heather?
um, Jean asked a question about what the little things next to your names mean. That is
Yes.
something Facebook does. It is based on how much you interact with our page, how long you've been following the page. I don't set that up. I have nothing to do with that. It's just a Facebook itself thing.
I know, who even knows? Um, Facebook is Apple is and Facebook are now doing the same thing. They just change things for the sake of changing it so they can tell you that they're improving your experience, but weirdly it's not an improvement to your experience.
And why is it that they have to tell me that? I'll be the judge whether that improves my experience.
Yeah. My experience has not. I'm so frustrated with my phone. I already have an issue with AI. Like I have a beef with AI, but what Apple has done to the Apple keyboard to train their AI has made me homicidal. It just
I
is.
I'm gonna say this will be the last iPhone I ever own. At this point, I'm so fed up. I'm done.
Yeah, I don't know that this. I dropped this and it's so janky and broken. I can't. None of the buttons work, and I'm still. I'm not. I don't want to replace it because I don't want to replace it, and I don't want another iPhone.
Susan Kirk says, I love pinball. Susan, that's what I majored in college.
I
Well,
love
based
pinball
on the
too.
amount of time that I spent doing it, I made in college. I majored in intramural football and pinball. So that's how I ended up in radio.
My brother majored in cannabis and backgammon, so I know it's possible. Here's a third space. When I was a kid, the last little town I lived in out west had a KOA campground that only had people in the summertime and some guys during the beginning of deer season because then snow would come and shut it down. The
Mm.
owners of that KOA, they didn't care how much the local kids ran around, played with the foosball and pinball, played on the playground, used the snack bar. They let us have the run of the place. And I feel like today that probably might not happen.
Mm.
That you might not be allowed there if your parents weren't camping there. You know, I don't know. We made so many friends with kids from all over the country whose families were camping and vacationing there. It was something to do. Like
Mm.
what are we doing? I need to ask you, what are we doing? Our power bills are doubling. We have nowhere we can go that doesn't cost money. We're pissed off at our kids for being on their screens, but there's nowhere else for them to go. What are we doing? Why are we living like this?
The electricity prices going up is the thing that's just the most astonishing to me. I used to get electricity bill and I'd go, I think this is a pretty good deal. I'm getting electricity and runs everything. And now it's like, wow.
So, Max, your power bill for last month is as much as my power bill this time last year. And you could fit your apartment in my house.
Oh yeah. I mean, I do not live in a
Oof.
big place.
No, and you're sheltered. So you should have some extra insulation. Y'all, why are we okay with this? Why why are we okay being at our just working our just spending our whole lives working for wages that don't pay for basic necessities and being pissed off that anybody's out living a life? Get those kids back. That, remember that lady, we talked about it on the show, that lady who called the police and reported that her neighbor's kids were making noise. They were playing in their backyard, Heather. She called the police with a noise complaint for kids playing in their backyard. Like,
There
we're
is nothing that ticks me off more. And I am child free by choice. I don't have kids. I don't really particularly enjoy interacting with kids, right? There is nothing that ticks me off more than people who are complaining about children just being children.
just existing in this world. Yeah.
I
Like
get
they're
excited when I see them out riding bikes or doing anything outdoors. I went, yay, run free.
if there's something about you where a child's joy just gets up in your craw, I think you need to go to a timeout. I don't know where we put that timeout, but I think you should go to a timeout.
There were all these little boys that used to play. They had a fort and their bikes, and they had like swords and lightsabers, and they played near my house. And one of the neighbors complained, and I haven't seen them in 4 or 5 years. But, by all means, complain about them being on their screens, complain about them being lazy, complain about them not knowing what it is to run outside like you did and your mom called you in at dark. If they're outside and you call the police because they're making noise, or you call the police on their parent because their child is unsupervised in the yard, we had that happen too.
Unsupervised in the yard. Good
Hmm.
heavens.
Yeah, somebody called 911 and reported kids that were outside improperly cared for. And so the police came. These kids were playing in their yard. And yeah, they were dirty because that's what kids do.
That is what they do. I know I
Y'all,
certainly did.
I don't even know. You know, I don't even know. And okay, whatever. Just, Sherry, nobody cares. Just be quiet. Just talk about the weather and the Oscars or something. Stick to things that don't piss people off. How about this weather and who's excited for the Oscars?
Eve
You
says 60 degrees today and her daughter was out riding her bike. Yay.
What kind of mother are you, girl? Were you out riding a bike with her? Was she wearing a large inflatable bubble suit? Like, it's crazy. Look what Julie said. Someone in our neighborhood said if little kids didn't stop ding dong ditching, he'd meet them at the door with his gun.
Are you kidding? Good
let
heavens.
let's traumatize children for life because I can't take a stupid little ding dong. Like I get it, it's annoying, but it's like come on, it's nothing. It's nothing to get that upset about.
Sometimes I think because we're all just high as kites on Hollywood and this idea of being like macho and protecting our turf and our homes and all. I think that people don't realize what it is to like open your door and shoot somebody. Like what it does to your soul to take a life like that. Like you're not some vigilante badass. What are we doing? What are
But
we
like also to just be okay with horrifying and scaring kids to that degree is something I cannot understand.
Well, I wanted that. I just needed to go home. That's all.
I don't even mm.
Because listen, some oddball in the neighborhood wants to threaten me with gum. That was nothing having to face my mother with bad grades. That was I would much rather go to the oddball with the gun than deal with my mother. I can tell you that.
Well, the oddball with the gun was living in my house.
Well, that's true.
I mean, I had to go. I had to find places to be. I had to get out of the house. That was where peace and safety was. I don't even know, y'all. Like sometimes, lately, especially, and it hasn't been intentional at all, we're working on these various episodes and we're looking at each other like, boy, ripped from the headlines, huh?
Mm,
And it's something that happened 120 years ago.
yeah. That's the one thing that's been kind of fascinating about that. A whole lot of these episodes, you think, oh, well, it happened long ago. Well, first of all, it wasn't that long ago, and things haven't changed as much as you think they have.
The thing that really stays with me like all the time is how recently we have all the stuff that we have. It's very new. It's very new. So, in the episode that we're working on right now with the two sisters that ran the brothel, they made up a name and they never used their real legal last name. They didn't use it in Chicago while they were brotheling. They didn't use it when they quit that game and moved with all their millions to New York. They disappeared, and you could before the internet, right?
Mhm. Yeah, you could.
It's like you could leave your house and be unbothered by anything because you didn't have a phone in your pocket. The phone was attached to a wall. And not to get all nostalgic for because they weren't the good old days. This is the best of all possible days, this one you're living. They weren't the good old days. So not to get all nostalgic, but we are all living with digital choke collars now. And you
It's
can't be, if you're saying shit like, if a kid rings my bell, I'm answering the door with a gun. Sir, do you hear yourself? Do you hear how insane and disordered and violent and unsafe you sound when you say stuff like that? You think you're Dirty Harry. That's a 7-year-old. Like, come on. Come on. It's unacceptable. And yes, it it is repeating, but you know why it repeats? People say history repeats as though history were some living, breathing thing with a mind of its own. History repeats because people do not learn and we do not change. That's why it repeats. Look at Henry Ford. Henry Ford was convinced beyond anything that white people were being replaced. And jazz music was the engine of that replacement. And the best way to counteract that was to indoctrinate American children into square dancing. That's
well,
nuts, but that's the fact. That's what happened, right?
but
Right?
this, this, um, that happened with rock and roll in the 50s, and then it happened with rap music in the 80s. People had, they felt that there was some idea that they were being threatened, and you know, I mean, that's just
Yeah.
it's the humble square dance.
We see it. We see it all the time. And sometimes it's so painfully obvious that I go, I can't even put this in to this story because it looks like I have an agenda. When our only agenda is to tell stories, and a lot of times we're telling stories of about people and things that we love, and we just want you to love them too. Like characters like our hapless outlaw,
Mm,
Elmer McCurdy, right?
yeah,
We just love this story and we want to share it. But sometimes I'm like, I can't even include this because this is so the stuff that comes out this week with the Andrew Jackson, Jeffrey Epstein vampire conspiracy theory. It was uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable how ripped from the headlines some of that stuff
but
was.
it's an entertaining story. It is. It's a very entertaining story, and Erin, who's one of our voice talents, she went, "How much of this is about Jeffrey?" And I went, "Nah, it's not that part of it. It's not that part of the story."
Y'all, it's really not because I think I've read, I mean, I think it's traumatizing information. It's very triggering, very, very triggering for me personally, very difficult to read.
Mm.
Difficult. The Europeans have done an unredacted dump, and I've seen things today. So thank you for all your help with that. Um, Andrew's on our money. Yeah, Andrew Jackson's on the $20 bill.
He is.
And if you take it out and look at it, like there's a couple of things that are really interesting. Jeffrey Epstein and Andrew Jackson both have like a wrinkly dimple, a pronounced wrinkly dimple here, and then those frowny lines are identical for both of them. And there's a sort of Jeffrey Epstein had like, I know he thought he was the best of men and that his genes should, and for all we know, he succeeded in this breeding operation. There's some very troubling stuff
Yeah,
in the file to suggest that he did. He's got like a weird head and kind of a heavy, elongated jaw, right, Max?
he does. Yes, I would
And you
say.
see that too. You see that too with Andrew Jackson. So I know you're thinking, that's not possible. There's no such thing. Maybe.
True. Weird stuff.
And that's it for us tonight. Thank you all for joining us and
Yeah.
for listening. Don't forget, Heather popped a link into the chat stream. You can register to win one of 4 True Weird Stuff hats.
Mhm.
I'm
We'll
sorry
talk to
I don't
Tony.
have my hat on tonight, but it's spring training and the Phillies are in
The
spring.
Phillies.
So
We'll talk to Tony about seeing if we can't find a way to get a hoodie into the store that isn't too expensive. And if you pop over to trueweirdstuff.com and sign up, you'll be entered to win one. And Tony is just now, he moved and he moved his office. So he's just now, that's why you're starting to see prizes showing up at your door. He's just now fulfilling all that.
yeah.
So this week on the show, on Friday, Lamar, the People's Movie Critic, is going to review Crime 101. Right, Max?
That's right. Crime 101.
And also, I'll tell you what we have coming up. What we know we have coming up tomorrow. We won't know till we get there tomorrow. Tomorrow we have a really fun rabbit hole for you about AI. Comedian Erica Sigurdson is going to be on the show. And true crime time, because tomorrow a trial goes underway.
Oh, this trial.
Did this man abandon his girlfriend at the summit of Austria's highest mountain in bitter cold with inappropriate gear and no way to shelter? Did he leave her there on purpose to kill her because she died? Or was it all a terrible accident? The trial starts tomorrow. I think you'll be surprised by what her mother has to say, and we're going to do that in True Crime Time tomorrow. So cheers, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Kisses, big hearts, and we'll see you next time for True Weird Wednesday. Bye.
Bye.